Hello, I'm Raquel, and I'm here to talk about the intertextuality of the rain came in any other kind of literature. I'm not so religious, but the story, the rain came, reminded me two passages of the Bible. The story of Abraham and his son Isaac, and the story of Jesus as the Son of God. In the Abraham story, what made me remind this story was about the Labongo's situation as the father who was supposed to give his daughter in sacrifice. It's the same way as Abraham did. He wanted to have a child. He asked God to give him a child, and when he was 99, he could have this child, Isaac. So after some time, to prove he was a very devoted man, he was a very faithful man, God asked him to give his son Isaac in sacrifice to prove his devotion to God. And it was the same situation of Labongo, as he was the chief of a group, and he was supposed to give his daughter Uganda in sacrifice just to save his people, to save the people who was leading, you know. And it made me remind the situation of having a son. And in the case of Labongo, he didn't have a daughter, he only had sons, and the time he could have the daughter he expected to have, he was very happy with the situation. He was supposed to give her in sacrifice, and he was suffering, but he knew it was his only way to follow, because as he was a descendant from his ancestors, and his ancestors were leaders, and he was supposed to follow that. And the other situation was about Jesus as the Son of God. I'm not talking here about the Bible as religious things. I'm not, as I mentioned before, I'm not talking here about religion. I'm talking about Bible as literature. So I'm not mentioning this. But in the situation of the Bible, that Jesus was sent as the Son of God, so that God could prove that he was given his son and in sacrifice just to save the whole people in the earth. It made me remind Labongo's situation. He was given his child, was given his daughter to save his people. And the situation of Jesus is similar to Uganda, because Uganda knew she was there. She was supposed to be given in sacrifice. In the end of the story, she mentions that even if she ran away, all the eyes of the ancestors would follow her anywhere she was. And Jesus sometimes suffered. In the Bible, it is mentioned. He knew he was the one who would be sacrificed. He knew that everything he was suffering was for a good cause, but he was suffering inside. And sometimes he followed in some situations that he would ask God to think about that. He was feeling weak, but he knew, as Uganda did, he knew he was there for a good cause, and it was a necessary cause. In the Labongo situations, it's compared to the God situation in the Bible, And this is the relation I can make. Of course, the story of Labongo's and Uganda's situation was very well told, and it has details. The Bible sometimes brings more something faster, because it is a book which talks about a lot of stories, a lot of people, and a lot of situations in a lot of years. And this is the relation I can make between the Ray King and the Bible. It's the only point I could think of, not to take a long time, but I think it's an interesting point, and I want to know your opinion about that. If you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, if you see any points similar or not.